What's up, everybody?
Hey, everybody's on Get to 134 here.
I'm Average Joe Squad,
And we're welcome to another episode of Remember the Hyphen,
where it's all giggles.
the show you look at comic books, movies, and everything in between. And somebody here decided to start us with a joke.
What do you get when you cross a mentally ill? The show gets what it fucking deserves.
So, as you
We're
don't-
totally serious on this
Yeah.
show.
So, we decided to look at a book that I own. He'd never read.
I'd heard a lot about it. I'd never read it myself.
I talked this book up a lot well, for reference, I'm a big fan of the show Back Issues, and this is actually one of the ones they did. But I love this book enough that I think more people should know about it and talk about it.
I like fucked up shit.
And seeing as how we've gotten more looks at the Robert Pattinson Batman, I figure why not we do Batman the Cult, a 4-issue story made in the 90s. I forget exactly when. I want to say 90.
Because I have the notes right up here.
I forget exactly when, but it was like 90.
August to November 1988.
Okay, it was the 88. So this story was kind of originally I don't think it was in canon, but nowadays it is or is moderately in canon.
Implying DC canon is ever not convoluted.
Well, I know that. I'm just saying. Originally, this was I think an Elseworlds exchange or an Elseworlds story.
Don't worry, 5G's gonna wipe this off the map.
Could we not? Could we not? Doesn't even happen until December. And even then, I'm not entirely sure how much of it's going to happen, seeing how Jim Lee's like...
It's going to be like Doomsday Clock. We're just going to delay it.
Well, no, that was because they were giving a big middle finger to Jeff Johns.
Like they're not going to do that to the Dio.
Well, the Dio's gone, and Jim Lee, I'm not entirely sure what Jim Lee's going to do, because I don't think he really cares.
Yeah, so... Anyway, getting back to topic.
Getting back on topic.
Before we get started, an interesting thing that you pointed out to me, actually, while I was working on my thesis for grad school, which was... for those that, I'm sure I mentioned it in a video before.
You have, I think.
For those who don't remember, don't know, or just flat out don't give a shit, I did my thesis on the comic book scare of the 1950s, which was basically right around the time of the Red Scare, and they were there was this big push to get comic books banned because they were a negative influence on children. Because to be fair, there was a lot of messed up stuff in 50s comics because there wasn't really any kind of content control.
Yeah.
And it actually, while I was doing research for this and writing it, we actually went out one day to Titusville, and he actually picked up this copy of it.
Yeah, we went down a
one-way street.
There was no sign that said it was a one-way street.
Everything in that town is so backwards sign. But anyway, he actually went on a trade of it, and it actually has a little foreword that actually mentions that.
Yeah, and it's an old trade because this is like the new 50. Like this does not get traded a lot. It's very rare that this gets a trade. I think a lot has to do with the fact that it's a pretty dark book. I mean, it's called The Cult, but like, because like this one of mine, it's got damage on the spine and it's got some dents on the cover. But like, I mean, the inside's still in pretty good condition,
still
so like,
readable.
It's still readable,
acceptable.
I'd like to get a better version of this. In fact, I'd love to see this get an absolute. Like, I'd like to see like a lot of the material they did for it.
If they got an absolute on that, I would probably honestly buy that. I'm not gonna lie.
If you guys watched our Batman Year One review, basically an absolute is a super big.
I say it's back there, but the light's under it.
It's back there, and I don't really feel like getting it out. Basically, it's a super big like encyclopedia-sized version of the comic, and
coffee table book.
Yeah, a coffee table book. And it's got like the notes. It's got like treatments and stuff in it. It's really fun. They're really fun to read. I actually would love to get a Year One absolute, but they're like $100, so it's kind of...
You gotta pick them up cheap when you can find them.
Exactly. So basically, as he was getting back to your comic book scare thing, this basically actually, because I remember I was like, well, there's a really neat insert in this, and I thought maybe he could use it. Where
I think I tried to. I just couldn't find a way to work it in.
Yeah.
Like I even had a citation done up for it and everything.
Yeah. Because basically Jim Starlin, who I think is the guy who that's James Robinson. I think I was gonna say he did Starman, but I don't think this was that's James Robinson that did Starman. But Starlin basically was like, I wanted to do something that was because I think this is around the time the code was completely inert more or less, or it was pretty much on its way out.
People weren't listening to it to begin with.
Because I want to say because I think the only books that had the comic book code authority for a long time in the 90s was the Archie stuff. particularly the Sonic.
Yeah, well, and this
Archie.
was also right around the time that the music control board was coming into effect with the parental advisory stickers and stuff like that. So it kind of, there were some similarities being drawn.
Yeah. In fact, I think he brings that up in this.
I'm pretty sure he does.
And basically, he wanted to do a really dark story, which is actually kind of funny because this is actually, I think, probably my favorite story with Jason Todd as Robin in it. Because this actually came out, I think, a year or two before Death in the Family, where Jason dies, and this is probably his best story as Robin, at least to me. I there might be others. You can feel free to tell me in the comments, but I'd argue this is probably his best story. And basically he asked DC to write it, and it got written. And I think it was a little bit darker than they intended to, but I think that's what makes it a great story for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, while I love campiness with Batman, like I love the '60s show. I love just camp in general. I mean, I'm a big Golden Age guy for Batman, as you know. Like, I love the Golden Age stuff. I have almost all the trades for the Golden Age. But at the same time, I also think there's also a pretty good fondness within me for darker Batman stories, if not just because it's kind of the opposite end of the coin.
Yeah. For me, I like a happy medium with Batman. Like, I don't mind campy stuff with him. I kind of like it more like the animated series, where it can be silly and fun, but at the same time, it knows that you kind of have to do somber stuff with Batman as well. Yeah,
I also take that kind of stance. I guess what I'm trying to say is I have a pretty wide appreciation when it comes to Batman content. But we can all agree the Nolan stuff is pretty trash in parts.
Yeah. So do you think they'll make this for Robert Pattinson into one of his movies?
If they made a cult movie, you and I would probably call off, go opening night, do full cosplay, everything. We would probably go all out with it.
I guarantee you, if they made this into a movie, no one would like it. It is, I mean, granted, it's a great story, but like
if it was done right, though, it'd make a pretty damn good film. I'm not gonna lie.
Before we get into the breaking down the synopsis of this book, I just want to give a quick spoiler warning we're going to be talking about some pretty violent, dark, gory stuff in this.
Yeah, like even for a Batman story, there's some pretty disturbing stuff in there. So trigger warnings for those that need it.
Yeah. And also, if you really want to read it, I would like I said, pick this up. If you don't want to listen to us, you want to listen to someone else who is, I recommend watching the back issues episode of Batman the Cult. In fact, I might do that after we finish doing this, because I love watching that episode. It's so fun to watch them talk about this. But yeah, just fair warning, this might be a little bit darker than you're used to when we talk about, but I think it's pretty important. Especially someone especially because me, like, I remember I actually grew up shortly after the events of Waco, and this book has a lot of kind of feelings of like stuff about like this gets cults really, really well down. Particularly the villain of the piece, Deacon Blackfire, who actually has shown up. He was a Black Lantern during the Blackest Night event.
He was an Arkham Knight. Which he is nothing like. Which unfortunately is one of the weaker points of that, because like he's nothing. Beat his ass within I think like 2 minutes. He's easy as hell.
Yeah, it's not a very interesting. And not only that, he doesn't look at all like the Deacon Blackfire.
No, he looks more like a crazed pastor.
Yeah, whereas the Deacon Blackfire in this is a buff Native American dude with white hair that I honestly believe could be like a charismatic cult leader than over that Deacon.
Yeah, well, that's the central thing when it comes to cults. Me and our friend Doug were actually having this conversation earlier about dealing with the Manson family and just kind of stuff related to that. And cults can be a very interesting topic, but obviously a little touchy given the subject matter and what a lot of goes along with them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how the people that lead cults and stuff, they have a very charismatic kind of aura to them that draws people in and stuff like that. I don't think cults would work very well if the people that were in charge of them didn't have that kind of a charismatic piece to them. Like
it's interesting how much the Deacon can convince people to do in this book is really the biggest thing about it. So we might as well just get right into the plot. Basically, Batman actually begins with Batman chained up in the sewers, being held by these homeless people that are the brunt of the cult. Basically, he went to investigate the disappearances of all these homeless people because, as the media points out, the cops aren't really doing anything about it because they're homeless. Like, if they disappear, it's really not that big a deal because they don't have to round them up and put them in shelters and such. which is really messed up when you think about it. But
it's a fairly realistic thing.
Yeah, it's a fairly realistic.
And if anything, I think it's actually a little more relevant even today with the homeless
definitely.
problem being what it is.
So, basically, Batman went to uncover this mystery, and he gets ambushed by the cult and dragged, and also badly wounded in his side, down to the sewer where these people are being held, where he meets the enigmatic Deacon Blackfire who leads them.
I love the part when Batman's chained up. He's like, "I call this one rat."
Oh, yeah, he goes the one right.
That's the snark Batman that I like.
And not only that, well, basically they have tortured him, only given him enough food and water to keep him alive, and most of the food is like rotten and also laced with a very powerful mind control serum or like hallucinogenic.
The story actually starts out with a
with
like kind of like a dreamscape where like Bruce is very, very young and he goes in this house that he's never seen before.
Yeah,
and it actually he keeps going deeper and deeper in the house. You know, talking like, well, I'm an adventurer.
Yeah,
you know, I'll find out what's ever in here and I'll get to go home and live happily ever after.
Yeah,
won't I? You know, it's kind of like a very childlike idea of like how you can go on these big grand adventures and the bad guy always loses and the good guy always wins and everybody's always happy at the end of it. You know, very black and white, childlike romanticism.
Which works for me, especially because in my opinion that is Batman's thought process, and not maybe not as like as it's narrated here,
down,
but like he's like I go out, I fight crime, I protect the innocent, and I go home and I just keep doing it because that's my mission.
Yeah, and so he keeps going deeper and deeper into the house. He comes across this trapdoor and the Joker springs out. You know, and he's got like
very much like a Jack in the Box, actually.
Like a Jack in the Box, exactly like a Jack in the Box show. That was the imagery I think they went for.
Yeah.
And he's got kind of like a Tommy Boy like style, like dynamite all around.
Oh yeah, he's gonna blow himself up.
And Bruce with him, and then it turned out to obviously be a jest because it's the Joker.
Yeah.
And you have the scene where Bruce turns into an adult. You know, turns into Batman.
He picks up an axe and he just chops him to pieces.
Yeah, if you're just reading it, you don't know it's a dreamscape. Yeah, it's like, pretty disturbing. It's just like what? It's like, what the hell happened?
And to be
here?
fair, it's kind of implied that that's because, again, the hallucinogens that's being pumped into him and the fact that he's lost blood, he's very weak, and he's kind of hallucinating. And when he wakes up, he's like, oh, I had another one of those disturbing dreams again. And in fact, later on, he has one with Two-Face where I think he splits him in half because he's like, you're always split down the middle. Let's and he like cuts him in half.
Let's make it literal.
Yeah, let's make it literal. And then he blows him away with a machine gun in that dream.
Yeah, it's basically all the darker, kind of like, since we mentioned Jason Todd, kind of the issue that comes up later on in Batman continuity with like Under the Red Hood.
Oh yeah.
Like why is he still alive? It really just shows that Batman, at the end of the day, Batman is human. He thinks about doing this, but he never allows himself to act on it because to do so is totally against his whole mission statement.
And not only that, would prove a lot of his villains that he's exactly like them, and he can't do that because he wants to be better.
But at the same time, just because he doesn't allow himself to do it doesn't mean that he doesn't think about it.
Oh yeah, like I don't doubt for a second there's been plenty of times where he's like, I think about all the time about killing the Joker because of what he does.
Drunk words are sober thoughts is really the best analogy for it I can come up with.
And so eventually Ratface and the others bring Deacon Fire down to him, and Deacon Fire explains his whole mumbo jumbo, basically.
His whole mission statement.
It's actually a really sad part because, like, basically they keep trying to feed Batman this the drugged food. He's like, there's probably a drug in it, and his thoughts go, who cares? Basically, that like he's so hungry, and the food and like the chemicals are starting to make him lose control of himself in a sense. And it's one of the reasons why I like this story so much is just you see Batman kind of taken to like
the very fringes of sanity,
and like brought to like the lowest point. Like this and the Batman story, Batman Venom, in my opinion, do really good jobs of showing like Batman can be weak.
Well, and I think in a way this was probably influenced, given that from the time period it came out.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty fairly safe idea to put out there that this probably was influenced quite a bit by Alan Moore's deconstruction.
Oh yeah, definitely
related stuff, like what he did with Watchmen.
Well, that and probably the Killing Joke.
Yeah, a lot more of the darker stuff.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns, because actually Dark Knight Returns I think happened shortly before Jason dies as well, which is hilarious because it states that Jason died on duty, so it technically could be in canon if we wanted it to. And so Deacon Blackfire's like, I want you to join my cult. You know, because basically he wants Batman to be his soldier. Because
who wouldn't want a fucking Batman?
yeah, like he's like a Navy SEAL team rolled into one.
He's a one-man army. He's a Terminator.
Yeah, like he really is. And so basically, Batman's like, oh, is this the part where you tell me you're like this immortal god and like you've lived for hundreds, like, because basically Batman's like, I've heard
this shit before.
Yeah, like
you're the fifth one this week.
And unless you have a Lazarus pit, I ain't buying it. And so basically Deacon Blackfire goes into his, and I will admit his origin is very thought out. Basically he was a part of this tribe that settled where Gotham would eventually become once the colonies get here.
Is this the one that believes in the Pale Man?
No, which actually is kind of funny. The Joker kind of pulls this later on. I almost wish, like, at the end of Endgame, Joker was like, yeah, I pulled a Deacon Blackfire, what of it? That would have been amazing, but unfortunately...
That would have been a great reference.
Great
callback. I love when comics do callbacks like that.
Especially because the Joker can get away with it, because he's crazy enough to believe he's a comic book character, but...
He's basically Deadpool.
He's
a better Deadpool than Harley is.
Not to say he's not a comic book character, but like he would be like, no, I know I'm a comic book character. I don't care. But
I'm still having too much fun.
Basically I forget exactly what he does. He does like basically he gets kicked out of his tribe because he's performing like these demonic like rituals to basically give himself superpowers or something like that. Well, basically his immortality thing. And they basically beat him, torture him, and I think they just unload arrows into him. And then when he dies, they put his body like in a tomb a la Jesus, basically. And they kind of forget about him. And basically, his origin is, I think in the first issue, is interlaced with basically the homeless doing their killing thing. Because basically the homeless are killing, drug dealers, rapists, muggers.
Yeah, they basically do pull a Jesus. They kind of just wall them into a tomb, basically.
And I think they even set up a sign in their language that says, do not open this rock up. Well, unfortunately, basically the colonizers that first colonized Gotham, run the Native Americans off, and they open the tomb, and he comes out and kills all the colonists, basically. And basically he Batman's like, there's no way you could, this is all hocus pocus mumbo jumbo. And basically they torture him and they keep not feeding him, and eventually Batman starts believing them. I think the part that makes him believe is basically because he's so tired and dehydrated and pumped up on hallucinogens. They take him to this rock that's supposedly the source of Deacon Blackfire's power, which is very phallic in nature. It's like this big spire that has the Deacon's head on it, and it appears to grow and turn and stare at Batman, and its eyes glow. And it kind of convinces Batman that it's on the up and up. And so Batman more or less becomes a soldier for Deacon Blackfire. It's a really intense moment, in my opinion, because you're like, oh my god, Batman is going to be working for the bad guy. And then I think the next issue, basically, they cut to, and it's probably one of the moments that I think a lot of people kind of consider this a contentious moment. Basically during that dream we talked about where he sees Two-Face, he blows him away with a machine gun, and then Batman wakes up and he's actually with the homeless as they're killing I think a bunch of mafia. They don't exactly make clear if it's mafia or if it's just a bunch of rich people they're killing to take the food and such. And Batman is holding a machine gun, and it kind of implies he just shot somebody. Now granted, it doesn't really bother me because, for one, we never actually see him shoot anybody.
To me, it's one of those deals where the artist and the writer kind of leave it up to the reader's interpretation, which is something I kind of like if it's done in a good way. This right here is an example of it done in a good way.
Yeah, because
it leaves you to wonder, did he actually do it, or was it just kind of they planted him with the gun, and he to kind of further break him to make him think that he did it. It's really a good way to leave something kind of just up in the air.
Yeah, one of the things I do really like is the writing around Batman, because it is told a lot in narration, but I think it works because it's showing how much his mind is changing. Because when in the first issue, when you're reading it, it's very traditional Batman. He's like, I've been tied up for I can't even tell how long. They've been feeding me.
The hallucinogenics won't work on me. Too strong.
Yeah.
Too strong.
Which which is kind of a thing that he'll be too strong or too weak, which plays into his further breaking. But basically, Deacon Blackfire and one of his other generals, I forget his name, but basically that guy is actually the real leader of the cult, because basically he's using the homeless actually to basically profit, while Deacon is just like the Deacon has drunk his own Kool-Aid, as it were, more or less.
Yeah.
Like, he actually believes the mumbo jumbo he made up for himself, which is, I think, kind of true of a lot of cult leaders.
Yeah, it's like they kind of fall into that web of believing their own stuff.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why it's so hard when the police have to break cults up, because like they have to prove to not just the believers but the guy himself that he's not a god. You know, it's one of the reasons why like you it's very dangerous to actually kill leaders of cults if they're
because you just martyr them.
Yeah, because you create martyrs.
It's kind of like with the Manson family, going back to that. In a way, it was a good idea not to just execute him like they were going to, but at the same time, it's like he definitely deserved to just be shown that he was mortal like that.
Yeah.
It's really, when it comes to cults, there's not really an end all be all way to do it. Because it really just comes down to, you have to show people that, you have to show the people underneath that person that he's been feeding you bullshit. Yeah, it's not real.
And to be fair, it is true, because again, it's kind of interesting that this is dealing with cults, and then Waco would happen not too few years down the line, and it ends in a pretty gruesome way. So basically, Batman is with the cult, and you can kind of tell he's in a fog, basically, because his dialogue's it's all very fractured and shattered.
And we have that scene with Gordon and Jason where Jason's like, I haven't heard from him in a week. Have you heard anything? And Gordon kind of gives him the spiel,
he disappears occasionally.
He disappears occasionally, but he's like, at the same time, people have been disappearing all around town.
Yeah. Because it's actually kind of interesting, because I actually like that Gordon, unlike the rest of the goth, the mayor and everyone else, is this isn't a good thing that people are disappearing. There's something
going on. It's Gotham. Something always is going on.
Because one thing I love about this is the mayor, they're all like, well, no, if the homeless are not making the profit values go down in Gotham, it's okay that they're disappearing. Clearly they must be okay. We're not finding dead bodies. Which when you find out what happens to the people that the cult kill, it is horrific what happens to these people. But so basically, Batman tries to eat some of the food that's on the table, because he's like, I'm so hungry. Maybe if I just have something to eat, I'll be able to think again, and I can kind of. And basically, the guy that's the second in command goes no, don't eat that. And he's like, oh, okay. And basically they return to the sewer, and I think they have some of them that are still alive, because they're going to basically torture them to death. They go down to into the sewers, and one of the more intense and really cool art moments. Basically, Batman's like, so where's Deacon Blackfire? Could I talk to him? And he's like, Deacon is busy right now. He will talk to you later. Just sit here and just quietly wait for him. And Batman goes, okay. And he literally gets into the fetal position and just sits there. Literally, he's in so much that he's basically just, he sits there until they feed him the hallucinations and stuff. And one of my favorite moments is it shows how much his hunger is getting to him, and the hallucinations. It shows his head peeling, and how his skin starting to melt and stuff. It actually shows what he's feeling in a really interesting way. But basically, the Deacon wants to convince Batman to start, killing people. And that is one of the things that I think is so interesting, because basically the Deacon's trying to, convince him more to their side, and Batman's like, but killing is wrong. And I actually kind of like that no matter what they do to Batman, he still firmly, is like, no, I don't kill people. But it's actually, in my opinion, the story gets really good when Ratface, the guy that he had before, actually tricks Batman into thinking the Deacon has a job for them. And basically, up until now, basically the rest of the cult has been killing people that deserved it. Because I think later on they
I'm actually at that page right now, surprisingly.
Yeah, or they bring this woman that basically, I think she was a prostitute.
Yeah, and she basically, and again, trigger warning for anybody that doesn't like this kind of stuff.
Yeah, this is pretty horrific, right?
Yeah, basically, so again, trigger warning for basically just body mutilation right here.
Maybe we shouldn't show it the page because
I'm not going to.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that because again, this is a pretty dark story.
Yeah.
I'm used to dealing with some pretty fucked up shit. I mean, as Adam knows, me and our friend Doug, we're into some pretty fucked up shit that is like disturbing. Like normal people don't talk about it. Even this, some of the story is pretty hard to get through.
The swallow.
Yeah, basically, it's this woman who's a prostitute. And she mentions that one night her pimp basically cut her eye out with a straight razor.
Yeah,
and it's mentioned that like Blackfire and his cult executed this pimp, and he's standing there talking to Batman about it, and Batman is going like, like you murdered him, it's wrong, you should have gone to the police, and Deacon really just kind of plays the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
To that thinking like, well, why would we have gone to the police? Because then he just would have run free, and he surely would have killed somebody else the next time. It was the only just thing to do was to kill him. It really shows like the further breaking down of Batman's entire psyche with this.
Yeah, because like to the Deegan, he believes that his people are doing the right thing because like they're killing the right people, and in fact, in the very Dark Knight Returns style like talking heads like on there are people who are like, yeah, no, like they're like there's no drug dealers, no, like they should keep on killing people, and making people disappear, and it's like, yeah, but like eventually like they're gonna run out of like drug dealers and murderers to go after. In fact, I think they actually show the dude get executed because, like, basically they drag him into an alley and they don't show him getting killed, but you know that he's getting murdered. But so basically later on, Ratface takes Batman up top, and there's this dude who's like I think checking his changing the oil in his car or something, like he's fiddling with his car basically, and basically Ratface wants to kill this guy. Just because, like, he didn't like the guy, so he needs to die. Like, there's no, like, legitimate reason. Ratface just wants him dead. And Batman's like, we have to kill this guy? He looks pretty harmless. And Ratface is like, no, look at him. He's, and, like, it kind of implies that he's playing with Batman's fractured psyche to make it look like a pimp. And Ratface kills the guy, but it horrifies Batman because he's like, no, it's wrong. And I think Batman knocks him out. Or like the cop shoots him, I think.
Yeah.
And like this cop like comes to Batman. He's like, Batman, where have you been? We've been looking for it. Are you okay? And Batman kind of starts freaking out. Like, no, I need to go back to and like the dude almost talks him out of it. And then a couple of the homeless kill the cop, and like force Batman back down into the sewer. Oh, here's the part. Like they show like his like basically what it feels like in his head. Like basically like like it like burning, coming apart, like, and it shows like these really neat art ways to show like what he's feeling.
That's one thing that I mentioned to you even before we started the review, that I feel this what really helps the story is definitely the art style.
Yeah.
The art style itself really adds to just it's a very distinct looking art style, and I feel like it really it helps with the content, and it really helps just especially with the scenes where you can tell Batman is like very, very barely managing to hang on to his sanity, and it really shows that because in just the art style, it has a very kind of twisted and grotesque looking style to it in places that really I think kind of drive that home.
Yeah. So going a little bit further, basically Batman does eventually escape for a little bit, and he's still freaking out, but basically, oh no, he knocks the cop out. That's right. Because he wants to go back to Deacon Blackfire, so he runs for a bit and he runs into a deli, and I love the look because he thinks of himself like a caveman fighting a saber-tooth, and what he's doing is he's taking a stick and smashing the glass case to a deli. Like, I shouldn't laugh, but like it's so funny because he's like
comic book panels out of context. There's some good material right here.
Because like basically he smashes it and he starts just scarfing down food, but his stomach isn't used to eating this much food, so he feels kind of ill. And later on he stumbles into a park where like this couple is out at night for some reason. Like, even if crime seems to be lower in Gotham, I still wouldn't go out in the park at night. But basically Batman throws up a bunch of food, basically throws up most of the food, and he runs into these people that are, oh yeah, and he basically he feels like he's melting and falling apart, and it shows it by basically making his flesh melt off and like reducing him to a skeleton, which again is just in his mind, and I think it kind of implies that he kind of passed out and slept for a bit to try and, but basically he runs into this couple having a picnic, and he spooks them off because he's, you know, Batman covered in scratches and cuts and gore. And he finds eggs. I think the idea is the eggs
he's eating eggs.
Yeah, like the eggs are a little bit easier for him to digest than the ham and all that.
Yeah.
While this is all going on, Robin has put on his Raphael TMNT trench coat and fedora and snuck into the sewers because he's trying to figure out what happened to Batman. And I actually give Jason a lot of credit. He's like, you know, I waited long enough. I got to find out.
I got to take it into my own hands.
Yeah, I got to figure out what's going on. And basically, after Batman's eaten some food that isn't laced with drugs and stuff, it kind of clears his head a little bit. He's like, you know, like, my city needs me. And I love it when he stands up, like, as he's walking away, the hallucinations kind of make him see himself as, like, a knight errant in armor. Like, he thinks of himself as literally a Dark Knight.
Yeah. That's not what I call myself in my dreams.
Oh, then what do you call yourself? Oh. Well, you just gotta remember I'm Batman now. Tell it to my subconscious. And so basically, more or less, Deacon's like, he's like, I've amassed a big enough army, we're gonna get weapons, and we're gonna basically make Gotham our home. Like, they're gonna take over Gotham is their thought process. Like, they're gonna turn Gotham into, like, basically their own private Jonestown to make a...
to drive the cult allegory down even further.
And so basically... Batman, he basically sneaks into the Deacon's room, and while everyone else is given like scraps and meat, the Deacon's own room is like it's covered with all the rich stuff that they've.
It really reminds me of kind of like, have you ever seen the movie Marie Antoinette with Kirsten Dunst?
Yeah.
That's really kind of like the style it reminds me of. It's like a very pre-French Revolution looking like luxury.
He's got like a bed with posts and like the blankets so that he can like.
I would actually love to have a bed like that. I'm not gonna lie.
To be fair, those beds
those are very nice
cool
looking beds.
And like he's got like basically his cult gets the scraps, well he gets all the wealth. Although later on, like it's kind of weird how much this room kind of contradicts the Deacon's own like kind of personality. Because later on you find out that basically he drains the blood out of the people that they've murdered, and he's like, the key to my immortality is on the the full moon.
He's a vampire?
No, like in the full moon, he bathes in blood, and it makes him. He thinks that that's what makes him immortal. And I'm like, you know, call me crazy, but I don't think that actually works.
Doubt.
And I actually love it because like the dude that like is in second in command is like, yeah, do whatever you got to do. And I love it because like one of the other guys that works with him is like, are we really gonna let him like he's like we'll do whatever we want. We get wealth and shit, and he gets to run his kooky cult. And I think that like basically their first move is to I think blow up the mayor, which is hilarious because like, well, okay, not really hilarious.
Gordon
but, like,
calls him a jerk right before he blows up.
and then Gordon feels pretty bad about it. But to be fair, I think basically like the mayor's like, do whatever you got to do, Gordon. I don't really care.
The direct quote is actually, so take care of this Blackfire mess, Jim. Try to keep me out of it. This fiasco may get political. Don't want to get muddled by it.
Yeah, he's like, that cost us.
Don't want to get muddied by it. My bad.
Yeah, like this could cost you your job, Jim. And I'm like, really, dude? You're the mayor of Gotham, but you know, basically he's just as corrupt as everybody else. And then basically, what makes the cult not look like, to quote the Dark Knight, you know, you kill a couple of gangbangers and cops, and you know nobody bats an eye. You start killing politicians, and everybody loses their minds.
I mean, it's the truth.
But yeah, basically, that is when everyone in Gotham decides, you know, maybe this cult's not such a good idea.
This is just an idea that just came to me, actually. And I thought of this earlier when I was reading it, but it kind of came back to me. The use of the talking heads in this. I mean, we've seen the use of the talking heads a lot in this. Not the band, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Doug.
Yeah, he's totally would be like that next time we see him. And
yeah. But anyway. They use the talking heads in here a lot. And given the context of the story and the subject matter we're dealing with, I really think that could. Do you think that was possibly done intentionally as like an allegory for how the media kind of like blows up stories of cults and stuff? I feel like they probably use that a lot. You know,
like basically that the media likes to sometimes like, and to be honest, I do kind of agree. Like, especially like, again, talking about a kind of serious subject matter.
Because
like,
this is just kind of flipping through to really like just kind of refresh my thoughts I had about it. this is probably like the third use of the talking heads panels that I've seen.
Yeah, and to be fair, I admit this is kind of taking from the Dark Knight Returns, but like in my opinion, I think this kind of works here better than Dark Knight Returns.
As do I, just because I think that media reporting and cults really go hand in hand.
Yeah, or especially if you want to take another allegory like school shootings. Like I remember, like they went into the rooms of the kids that shot up Columbine, after that happened, and they in a way they kind of glamorized it when they were going through the room and they were like, oh, they played Doom, and like this must have been one of the reasons why they because like they in a way
music got a lot of flack on that too, like heavy metal and stuff, Marilyn Manson and stuff like that.
I remember the Doom thing because I'm like at that time Doom was like 10 years old.
Yeah, Doom had been on a decade at that point.
Like if they pointed GoldenEye out, I might have,
or Resident Evil or Silent Hill.
Like even then I would still call BS on it, but like and I always say that just because like that was one of the things I remember them talking about a lot.
Well, and you're an ex-comms major, so
yeah,
you know that's how this kind of stuff operates.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. We actually did a documentary about how Fox News kind of got it big because they kind of used 9/11 as kind of a way to push stuff. Like I remember they were talking about how Bill O'Reilly brought this guy on basically because they wanted him to be mad about these, because his father was like a first responder or someone who was in the building during 9/11, and they wanted him to get mad and blame the Muslims and stuff because they that pushed their agenda, and B, it made they basically wanted to use the
they're
victims
after that
as like
story,
yeah,
man.
like they want
And I'm not. And before anybody points it out in the comments,
because to be fair,
we're not talking about all media, but there are definitely media on both sides of the left and the right that really they kind of become less about, and not even just left and right, just in general, like very like public figure type media type.
Oh yeah,
they're looking for a story. They want the sound clip, they want the news bite that they can use to sell headlines and stuff, and they don't really care if it's the truth or not because they got something else coming up the back anyway to replace it.
It's kind of funny they show so much news because imagine if this has gotten made nowadays with the fact that we have the 24-hour news cycle.
You'd have social media.
Oh, yeah, you'd have social media.
Up all the way.
You would probably see more talking news because, like, again, the 24-hour news cycle thing is such a thing.
That's actually a really good idea. Is what if they redid the cult in a modern day setting?
For me, if you to do that, I would actually change the care. I would actually be interested to see like Green Arrow do this. Just because Green Arrow is so much more of like on the liberal side, just to see him dealing with because he would probably be the media is making this worse.
Yeah.
We're playing it up like this. It's some big story. This isn't a game. But anyway, getting back to the story,
for this little bit of a tangent, but I mean, it was still pretty relevant.
It was still pretty relevant. I just wanted to point out how actually I think this works a lot better than Dark, because in the Dark Knight it's just Frank Miller doing the RoboCop thing.
One of my favorite panels of the whole story is right here. It's after Batman wakes up and they're taking him down to have his blood drained, and he's talking. He's like, they lead me along seemingly endless sewer passages. I appreciate the length of the trip. The longer the journey takes, the clearer my head becomes. I need my wits. These men plan to kill me.
Yeah, which I actually
this one right here.
Yeah, because basically they're trying to make spook Batman, but to Batman he's like, no, take as long as you want.
Take as long as you want. I'm just getting more and more. I'm getting warmed up.
Unfortunately, it doesn't really pan out for Batman here because basically they beat him and then throw him into a sewer to take him to where basically they keep the rest of the bodies, and it's and basically. I think they try to knock him unconscious because they know he's not going to go without a fight, and so they beat him up and then they throw him into the water, and then they do the dumb thing that a lot of villains do where they shoot into the water, not forgetting the fact that when bullets go into water, it actually makes it less that they're going to actually be fatal.
Yeah, it slows down the not the trajectory, the momentum.
Yeah, because it's not the bullet that's lethal; it's the momentum behind the bullet.
Yeah,
I think a lot but basically, they don't see the body and they just say it's fine because where he's going will probably will break him.
Yeah, well, and then Robin, Jason dives after him.
Which I find it hilarious that for such a dark story, Jason's in the traditional Dick Grayson Robin outfit, which means he's not wearing pants. And basically, Gordon is becoming much more worried because he doesn't know where Batman is, and now the cult is starting to go for politicians and people of the media and important people, basically. And then we get this really freaky scene where Robin is like, going through the sewer. I think he has like a light, like affixed to him.
Yeah, real quick. One of my favorite parts as well was Gordon being like, Deacon's in his 40s,
Yeah.
So that file's got to be on microfilm.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not, and it's just this huge pile.
Yeah, like
of just documents.
Yeah, implying that maybe he is, because like they do like to try and play maybe the Deacon is as old as he says he is. And while this is going on, Jason surfaces because he's looking for Batman, and he brings this light up, and all these rats suddenly start attacking him. And like, granted, rats wouldn't really do that if there was a light source. But like these rats are huge. Like they look like they're the size of cats.
Yeah, it's kind of this stereotypical, giant rats.
Yeah.
It's actually reminds me of the Batman Beyond episode.
Oh yeah. And so basically, Robin, after falling down this waterfall, finally, he loses his light, and now he's wading through the dark. And basically, he smells this really awful stench because he's like I'm fine. Are you here, Batman? I can't find you, but God, the smell is horrific. And basically, he finally finds Batman. He's like, are you here, Batman? Can you hear me? And Bruce very weakly goes,
where are we? What is this place? Hell. You see, I've been bad. This is my punishment.
And then, basically, for like 2 panels, it's just black with Batman and Robin's text boxes talking to each other. And basically, you find out that Batman is kind of broken again. And I think basically where he got sent was what broke it. And basically, Jason finally figures out by the smell that they've basically come to where they've been depositing the bodies. And then I guess Jason finds another flare in his belt, and he lights up, and you just see rotting, decaying corpses of various state of decay.
It's very, very horrifying, honestly. And then at the end of it, there's just Batman in there, looking at him. It just says, "Welcome to hell."
And then I think the final panel of the issue is basically just Batman and Robin in like this catacomb of like thousands of corpses. And Batman just going, "Welcome to hell," over and over, almost rocking in craziness.
Yeah, and Jason is obviously just horrified.
Yeah, like because Jason has seen some things as Robin, but this
is a whole new level of screwed up.
Yeah, he because basically for me, Jason was more or less the kind. He was kind of in the middle of like the silly, more campy adventure stuff that Dick dealt with, and going into the much darker storylines that Tim would. And I think that was really kind of one of Jason's bigger falls. Like he was not ready for some of the things he was.
Would you almost say that maybe as an allegory, that Jason was the Jared Leto to the. I know, I'm trying to keep it topical, but like you get what I'm getting at. That he was sandwiched in between two very highly acclaimed,
I would say,
interpretations of the character. For me, we're just considering Robin to be a character.
I'd actually argue he's more the Timothy Dalton between the Roger Moore and the Pierce Brosnan.
That's another one. The Joker allegory was kind of what I went for.
I get what you mean.
Keeping within a DC theme.
I was going more because I wanted to go for someone who actually was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think that is a lot of Jason's problem, because as much as I'm not a big fan of Dick's maybe not fan, that's as much as I don't think Dick's tenure as Robin was it really defined Dick, because for me Dick became much more interesting when he became Nightwing and he was graduated from being Robin. But basically, Dick was so popular, because originally when Jason was created, he was blonde and Batman made him dye his hair so that people didn't know he was a different Robin. But then for me, the fact that Tim and Dick are just so much more interesting as characters, because Jason's only thing going for him was he was a mouthy asshole that could kind of, who didn't follow Batman's rules.
When we first meet, he's stealing the tires off the Batmobile.
He's some orphan kid who was stealing tires off the Batmobile. But like I said, because I think a lot of people forget that the most interesting thing that Jason did as Robin was die. Because to me, I think Jason was much more interesting after he came back from the dead.
Jason is certainly better as Red Hood, in my opinion.
Well, when they write him,
yeah,
right?
That's another case of the characterization.
That's a difference. That's a story for another day. So basically, Jason basically has to kind of get Batman going.
Basically does a pimp slap on him.
He's like, you gotta snap out of this.
Get a hold of yourself.
I know you're hurting. We gotta get out of here first. I need you to kind of be Batman for a few minutes while we get out of here. And I will admit, I think this does work as like for who Jason is.
What I like is he slaps Batman and then he's like, he's like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that.
But I actually kind of like, because Batman's like, thanks, I kind of needed that.
You okay now? Yes. Still experiencing some hallucinations.
Well, because I think the idea was that, well, Batman got his second win. Basically, the corpses kind of triggered what was left, the remnants of like the toxins in his body. And so basically, Jason has to help lead Batman back home. And I actually kind of like it because Batman in this kind of is like, wow, you know, you've come a long way, Jason, and I'm glad you're here because I don't know if I could have gotten through this without you. For me, I especially chapter 3, I think is really good because it really highlights just how much Batman needs Robin. Because like, if it weren't
kind of driving home the point even further on with
like,
Tim.
Yeah, that like Batman is at his lowest point and he needs someone to pull him out, and that's what Robin's for. It reminds me a lot of Batman the Animated Series episode "I Am the Night," where after Gordon gets shot by that guy, and Batman almost gives up being Batman until, you know, Dick kind of talks him out of it.
Well, and it also reminds me a lot of the stories that came after Jason died, where kind of like with the Mud Pack ones, you know. Where Lady Clayface morphs into Robin, you know, not knowing that he's dead.
Yeah.
And it really, you know, it kind of breaks Batman for a while.
Yeah.
Just kind of driving home.
Sorry, I wanted to see how much time we have on here.
I can't fall.
Yeah, sorry.
If we do that.
Sorry, I was just trying to see who's recording. Okay, sorry.
We're totally professional here.
Yeah.
But,
sorry.
it really reminds me just of like, you know, how that even more that kind of really drives home the idea that, you know, Batman needs Robin.
Yeah, because like he can't be by himself like all the time, or else like this sort of thing happens.
After all the shit he's seen, he needs someone there to kind of like be the guiding light, whether it's Robin or whether it's Barbara.
Yeah,
Alfred. You know, it really just shows that, like, you know, for all the imagery we see anymore of Batman being like, you know, the Dark Knight,
the loner,
the loner. It's like he's not. You know?
Yeah,
he's actually a better man and a better hero when he's with people.
But getting back off our high horse about Batman, so basically, you know, like, you know, the cult makes their big dramatic, you know, Gotham is ours. They break into a news thing because basically one of the newsmen, who I think kind of supposed to be like Walter Cronkite or like an actual, like, you know, like, or like, you know, like the big news guys, like basically like makes this whole speech about how like we're not gonna, like, you know, like the cult is a dangerous monster. We need to, you know, stop it. And while this is going on, the cult are, I think, cutting the wires to kind of hack into the feed. And then, as the guy's still talking, a gunman appears and shoots him through the head and kills the guy. And basically, I think they hack it so they can switch over to Deacon Blackfire after they kill the dude. And the Deacon basically, says Gotham, you know, Gotham belongs to us. You know, as long as you don't, you know, do what we say and, you know, obey us, we won't kill you. But if, you know, you do wrong things, you're gonna die. You know, and if you don't, and, you know, Gotham is ours. Like, don't try to, because basically Gordon's been trying to, you know, prevent it, and basically, like, Gordon's like, I don't know what we're gonna do, and the governor of whatever state Gotham is in, I always say New Jersey, but there's argument it could be lower state New York, but I always go for New Jersey. Basically, I think declares a state of emergency, and the Coast Guard is brought in because, like, at this point, like, this is out of police jurisdiction, basically. Like, this is
like a national emergency.
Yeah, like, you know, get the National Guard. Unfortunately, it doesn't go well for the National Guard either. There's like a scene where, like, they send like an alpha team down to, like, you know, scout ahead, and basically they all die. And I think one of their heads gets, like, they send up one of the severed heads of the. Yeah,
that's right before we cut back to Batman having hallucinations.
Yeah, and while this is going on, Batman's trying to fight his way out. And, basically, they come across a bunch of the cultists, and Batman doesn't want to fight because he is literally that, like, I can't. And so Jason's like, well, then looks like I'm gonna have to fight. Come on, come at me all at once, you sons of guns. Let's get this started. Yeehaw! And they, like, he legitimately tries to start. He starts fighting them. Like, oh, that's right. They come across the Deacon doing his blood draining thing to, like, bathe. which again is like so weird.
That's cults for you, man. They
Yeah.
do the weird shit.
And then, that's right. Basically, they try to leave, and Tim like knocks a rock, and it somehow like sorry, Jason. I'm sorry.
No, I'm fucking.
There's like 7 Robins. Leave me alone.
But Robin's my favorite. Which
So-
one?
yeah.
What do you mean, which one?
So Batman and Stephanie get away. But basically, like, and I do love it because like Jason just is like, all right, come at me all at once or one at a time. I'm gonna kick all your asses. I'm like, I give you credit, Jason, but you're not nearly as good as you think you are. And I do love it because like because for me it was really interesting because like, you know, Jason starts fighting these guys, but like basically they've got more numbers, and like it looks like Jason's gonna die, and that finally snaps Batman out enough that Batman's like, no, and he just starts like he just takes them apart. Like this is the most Batman is in this story. Like this story. Oh, here you're at the part.
Yeah, I'm not gonna share that one because this is pretty gruesome. But.
Yeah, because like they don't show like the head exploding or anything, but like basically the dude puts an Uzi to the guy's head. But basically, oh yeah, that's right. Jason actually like they get pretty far because Jason has
Smoke capsules.
yeah, smoking gas grenades basically. But unfortunately he you know he only has so many.
And he basically blows up the tunnel to try to
Yeah.
buy them more time.
But then like they surround them again, and poor Batman's like, I can't fight. And so Jason's like, well, it's been fun, Batman. We might as well go out in style. All right, you
Sorry, clowns.
let's party. I'm like, wow, that was actually pretty awesome of Jason. Jason's like, all right, well,
If I'm gonna go down, I'm going down. I'm taking as many of you with me.
But like basically they like, and I love it because like you see Batman just like horrified, and you know Batman like they start like, and Jason's like, you know, come on, don't give up, Batman, we can do this. And they start grabbing Jason like they're gonna tear him apart with their bare hands, and you know like do something, anything. And then eventually Batman doesn't see Jason anymore, and then Batman gets mad, and he just snaps and goes on instinct. Yeah, and basically Batman's a 250-pound man who can break trees with his legs. Like he can kick trees in half with his legs.
He tears the whole room apart, man. I mean, when he's done, I mean,
Yeah, no. Like they show how like, because like a lot of people are like, well, he's just a dude. I'm
he's
like,
in a rage at that point, man.
I'm like, he's a dude, but he's like one of the
master of different martial arts.
Like
the dude can tear a room apart.
Like if you've played like those rooms where you just fight like hundreds of like 10 or 20 goons in a room in the Arkham games, that's basically what happens.
He tears them apart.
I love it because like Batman, like I love it's and it works for me because it's Robin who's in trouble, and Batman's like, oh no, like you guys can do all this to me, but you're not hurting my Robin, and he just like it's so awesome. And so basically Batman, you know, they get away to Wayne Manor, and I think it kind of implies that it's a couple days pass. Basically like Batman is like asleep in and we get Reagan.
There's Reagan, basically. Proving that this story was in the 80s.
Ugly people need to be destroyed. Oh, it's bedtime for Bonzo. And so I think we get another dream sequence there too when Batman's asleep. Like it's not as gruesome, I think, but basically like all of like his enemies are there, and Batman wakes up, and Batman's like, oh man, because I think, oh yeah, Alfred goes out into Gotham to get groceries.
And meanwhile, Reagan's just like, if you're in Gotham, I order you. I advise you to vacate the city immediately.
Yeah,
and as orderly and a fashion as possible.
Yeah, which cut to like people running, cut to like traffic jams of people just trying to get out. And then this is where we get to the part where more or less the Coast Guard gets killed by these cold. It's kind of weird, like.
Well, they shot Gordon earlier too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Gordon does get shot.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Because they're kind of pulling out. If anybody's familiar with the JFK assassination theories, the one about the guy in his sewer, that's basically what this is.
Yeah, because basically, like, it plays the idea that like the reason like the cult is doing so is because they know the sewer layout. You know, basically they're doing guerrilla warfare tactics. Like we know the home field advantage and we know where to strike. But there's a scene where Alfred goes out to get supplies, and Bruce is like, are you okay? Were you right? Don't worry, sir. I was prepared. And Alfred pulls like a Glock out of his pocket, like, you know,
I'm ex-British Special Forces, man. It's all good.
Master Wayne, if need be, I would have busted a cap in their asses, as the kids say. I would have opened a can, Master Bruce. No, I would have loved if this story had been done in like later on. There would have been like a whole scene where these homeless guys come up on Alfred and Alfred just shooting them. Like, you know, I wish we could have seen a scene where Alfred had to shoot these guys as they're trying to kill him. Oh man. But basically, oh that's right. Yeah, there's they contact Alfred, and Alfred comes with the car, because obviously he doesn't bring the Batmobile. He brings a limo though, which I'm pretty sure people would have figured out. But to be fair, the place is abandoned.
Have any trouble getting here? Nothing I couldn't have handled.
No one messes with Alfred.
He's just so casual. That's what I love. He's just like, nothing I couldn't handle.
No.
Where to, sir? As he's just sitting there holding this revolver. I'm like, man.
Yeah, and because basically
Batman's actually the one holding Alfred back.
Yeah, and Batman is like, just we've got to get out of here, Alfred. We've lost. I don't know what we're gonna do. And it actually shocks Alfred and Robin, because he's just broken. Basically, Alfred or Batman gets chased by the dead the dead people. Oh no, it's his parents.
Yeah, it's his parents. It's Bruce hallucinating his parents
as zombies, which I'm like, ugh. But basically, they're like, you're just gonna run. You're a coward. And so Batman wakes up. He's like, no, I'll fight. I'll protect Gotham. And basically, Batman is, and not only that, they show how wounded Batman is. He's got a knife wound up here, his guts wrapped.
Yeah.
And so basically, he gets dressed and he's just like, I don't know what to do.
And then Alfred just kind of does the hand on the shoulder thing, and he's like, it's all going to work out, Master Bruce. You are the Batman. You'll do just fine.
Yeah, basically Alfred's like, now is not the time for doubt, Master Bruce. If you haven't noticed, Gotham is literally on fire. And so basically, Batman finally starts coming up with a plan. Basically, they're going to get out the heavy artillery. Because basically, they show a scene where basically the Deacon basically shows basically does a Vlad the Impaler and hangs people.
Basically, kind of doing Berlin 1945 kind of shit that you would have seen.
And then it also while this is all going on, Jason, and this is something you will never see in a modern Batman comic. Jason and Bruce are practicing using basically assault rifles. Basically
that are tranquilizer darts, obviously.
Basically, kind of showing that Batman actually is an expert marksman. Well,
and then Jason looks up and he's like, "There's a bat flying overhead. Now there's a good omen."
Yeah, and unfortunately, Bruce is like, "No, that's not good." Early,
he has the flashback to the night his parents were killed.
Yeah, and also
we haven't seen this a million times.
Well, and to be fair, I think it kind of implies that after they died, it showed a bat flew through under the street lamp, kind of the.
But I would actually say that even though we've seen the origin a million times over, we all know it by heart. It's in every freaking movie. It's in most comics anymore. It really works really well here, because the last couple panels we've had Bruce really struggling with Deacon broke me.
Yeah.
How am I gonna fight him if he broke me? No one's ever done that to me before.
Yeah.
And so he sees the bat that Jason points out, and he has the flashback to that night where his parents died. And he looks at Jason. He's like, "I've been fooling myself all these years. I always claimed to become. I always claimed I became the Batman to avenge the death of my parents, to fight crime. That was a lie. I did it to overcome fear." Really, kind of I feel like they definitely harken back to this in Batman Forever.
Yeah, it's not just because I have some I need to. I chose this because I was scared the night my parents died, scared of criminals, and I basically became something that they feared. In my opinion, I think it also is kind of hastening, Batman's at his lowest point, but when he sees the bat, it reminds him, I've been at my lowest point before, and that's why I'm Batman. And so basically, the plan with Batman is basically because, basically they're not only are they getting all this armor, because this armor these guns and stuff, they're gonna basically bring this amazing Batmobile. It's basically a four-wheeler or a monster truck. Like, this is the most radical Batmobile I've ever seen, aside from like the tank from The Dark Knight Returns. But basically, it's got like heavy artillery. It's got like missiles, because they basically they've set up like debris and like cars to be like barricades, basically. So basically, their plan is they're gonna go in first and create a path for the Coast Guard, or the. Would it be the Coast Guard? Not the Coast Guard.
It'd be the Marines.
The Marines.
Probably the Marines or the Army, National Guard.
Yeah, it's
like
the National Guard. Sorry, yeah, I couldn't think of the right word. And basically, they're going to make a path so that the National Guard can come in and have a way to fight. But before they go in, Batman goes to see Gordon in the hospital, and I kind of love it because Gordon wakes up and he's like, "What took you so long?" And basically, Batman's like, "I'm sorry, I've been gone so long, but I'm gonna take."
Kind of busy.
Yeah, I've been kind of busy, but I promise you, I'm taking Gotham back.
And Gordon just looks at him like, "Clean the bastard's clock for me."
Oh yeah, no, it kind of reminds me of the Killing Joke in that way, where like after like, because you think Gordon's been driven mad, and Gordon's like, "No, I'm all right. You need to go after him, but we do it by the book. We need to prove to him our way still works." It's not completely like that, but it kind of reminds me where Gordon basically is like, you need to be the symbol that we believe in. And I love this because basically it's one of the most awesome scenes ever. Is you see the bat monster truck. What should we call this thing? I kind of am prevalent to the Bat Doom Buggy.
Bat Digger. Bat Digger, there you go.
Oh, you gotta show him this thing. This thing is amazing. Like, it's because like it literally is like a Batmobile just on giant wheels, and it's got like this big missile launcher on the back, and so basically he blows up.
Batman ain't playing to fuck around this time.
Oh yeah, no, Batman
unlike the Army, I'm not afraid to cause a little property damage.
Yeah, and so Batman like blows up this barricade and just starts wheeling through. Although there is a pretty dark moment where basically this woman is being chased by the cult and like begs for him to rescue him, and Batman's like, I can't, like, and basically the cult like I think rips her apart, or like they don't say what happens, but basically Batman hears her screams eventually die out, and Batman's like, I can't leave because if I do, they'll tear me apart. And so basically he hears their scream, or her screams, and like I think basically he says it feels like 1,000,000 years.
Yeah, it seems like it takes the woman 1,000,000 years to die.
Yeah, like it actually like just to nail the just to put one more knife for Batman. Meanwhile, the Deacon's like, "Oh, Batman's coming to kill me. Great, I want him to kill me. Basically Deacon's like, I want to become a martyr because then like I'll win." And so Batman, basically Deacon Blackfire I think calls over like a radio or something. It's like, come to Gotham. I think is it Gotham Stadium? I forget exactly where.
Going to blow up Gotham Stadium.
But basically, he wants to go to this place that I think it's Gotham Stadium. I think it's the football stadium.
It probably is. It's honestly probably Gotham Stadium.
Basically, they turned it into like a Roman gladiatorial arena. And so basically, like they go as far as they can, and then in order to get into the arena, they have to go into the sewers. And so basically, they're using their guns and tear gas, and basically what you would see the SWAT team kind of use. In my opinion, like how a SWAT team would deal like going through a cult. If you ever played SWAT 4, there's a great level in SWAT 4 where you have to go through a cult home and fight like the cult. And basically, Jason gets left behind because basically I think Jason takes like a bullet to the leg or something like that. Yeah. Which is weird because like they're covered in like armor and stuff, and like Jason doesn't have like armor for his legs. Like, and so we basically come to my favorite part of this book. Basically, Batman goes into the weird cult chamber, and
I see. Welcome to my martyrdom party, Batman. You're to be my guest of honor. I see you've brought a gun. Excellent. You know how to use it. What are you waiting for? And he keeps flashing back and forth between like a very, very Satanish looking figure and normal Deacon.
Yeah. And so basically Batman like is like, no, that's what you want, more or less. And he just he takes the gun off and he takes basically he's like, I love it because he's like, not this time. I'm not letting you play me like a fiddle.
And honestly, I feel like the dialogue here is a really good indication of how good the dialogue is in this whole story.
Oh yeah, because basically
I know I keep stopping to read extras, but it's that good.
Yeah.
Especially this part where he's, you know, he basically he's holding the gun, you know, and Deacon's telling him like, "What are you waiting for? Do it. Kill me. I know you want to. Kill me."
and Batman's like that's too good for you, basically.
It would be so easy. One pull of the trigger is all it would take. It would quiet the fear, but it would be too easy.
And so basically
The only way
Batman
to keep that keen edge is to run along it occasionally.
Yeah, and so basically Batman throws the gun away and he takes Deacon actually slashes at Batman with this big Bowie knife he's got, but Batman disarms him, takes the knife, and it looks like he's gonna stab him to death, but no, instead I think he turns the knife around and starts beating him with the back of the blade or with the handle, and then
No, he slams it into the wall behind him beside his head. And then just to quote the direct issue, he works on taking him apart with his bare hands.
And so basically he just he pulls a Bane on him, he just breaks him basically. Oh, but do you mind if I read this part?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I go to work on him.
We're almost really at the end.
Yeah, I've never gone on a man like this before. I'm not trying for the knockout or the kill. I go for pain. I concentrate on the nerve and centers. My aim is to just break the man, just the way he broke me. May God forgive me. I enjoy it. Essentially, basically, Batman's like, I give him back every bit of pain he gave to me, and God help me, I enjoyed it a little bit.
Yeah, and so then you cut to this image of Deacon just on the ground, bloody, you know, and he's basically begging Batman. He's like, "Please, no more. I can't take no more."
And basically, you see the rest of the cult, and they're like, "What the hell is this? He's supposed to be invincible."
Well, in the 1 second in command, you know, he pulls out a gun, and Jason obviously hits him with a trank right before he's about to shoot Batman.
Yeah.
And basically, Deacon looks at everybody around him, and he's like, kill him, tear him apart, you know? Destroy the infidel, stand by me, my faithful, and the world will be ours. So they all jump down. You all think that they're going to go after Batman. No. They go to Deacon, and they just start ripping him apart.
It's kind of implied they rip him apart with their bare hands. And not only that, Jason's like, we got to stop them, and Batman's like,
there's too many of them.
And to be fair,
there's too many of them, too crazed to listen. It's all over.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't think this is Batman like, no, let him die. I think he's basically like, they're not gonna, like, we will get torn apart if we try to stop that. And basically, you know, what's kind of funny is they kind of point out that the homeless kind of just disappear and act like nothing ever happened. As if kind of like they've woken up and like they kind of like
they were in like a haze almost.
Yeah. And so basically, you know, Batman's like, it's over now, and and not only that, he even states that like they didn't leave enough of the Deacon for proper identification, like as if there was not a bit left of him. Like and so basically it ends with Batman going to that big head, which turns out is only like this big. It kind of implies that like he was hallucinating how big it was.
The drugs basically made him hallucinate that it was bigger than it actually was.
And Batman's like, he was no god, but just to be safe, he takes gasoline and pours gas all over the head and just lights it on fire. Like, I'm not like, as if Batman's like, I'm not superstitious, but
I'm gonna cover all my bases.
Yeah, it may not have been real, but it may have been, and just to be safe.
Yeah. So and that was Batman the Cult again. A pretty dark story, especially. Well, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the stories that were being published at the time, and certainly ones that have come afterwards.
Yeah.
I feel like, again, this kind of goes a step further because, as you mentioned it really breaks Batman and deconstructs him in a way that we saw Watchmen do really successfully, but this is with Batman. You know, this is with a main A-list character.
In fact, I think this does some things better than, say, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns did, where it kind of tried to show that Batman can be weak.
Yeah.
Because like it shows that like, you know, at this point Batman was like, you know, like this will be just like a typical night for me. I'll get out, I'll stop these guys. That's what I do. But Batman has never really dealt with something like this. At least not at this point. Later stories where he deals with stuff like this, you can clearly tell he's learned a lot from this. Like, you know, I have to be strong and I have to prove that that this man is not invincible. And in my opinion, I also think this does really well because much like The Dark Knight Returns or Year One, it's only 4 issues, and I think it's just the right length that it doesn't feel drawn out.
Yeah, the pace is excellent. I would say for
because like nothing feels like it drags. There's no filler.
There's not really any needed like backstory where
Yeah.
it's not where it feels like, okay, this is like making it drag. It's basically as soon as you start reading, it's like go.
Yeah. I actually feel really bad that this doesn't get re-released a lot because, in my opinion, I think this is a definitive Batman story.
Yeah.
Like, I actually would rank this in my top 10, which we probably should do one of these days.
Yeah,
top 10 Batman.
I certainly would agree. I don't know if it'd be my top 10, but it's certainly a story that I would cite as being like, like for people that are like, oh, well, superheroes are like really campy and
Yeah.
kind of like kiddie books, and it's like, well, it's like read this, you know, read this and tell me that.
Yeah. But because like I had actually been wanting to read this a long time when I did find this because like I had heard stuff about it. Like I said, the back issues really got me into wanting to watch this.
I heard about it from you. I feel like I'd seen mention of it here and there, but I never really read it. But then when you mentioned it and you were like, you kept kind of at me. You were like, you need to read this.
Yeah, no, like I'm sorry, it's definitely one.
No, I'm definitely glad you did because this was a great read.
It actually, in my opinion, reminds me a lot of Green Arrow: The Longbow Hunters,
which was another one that you recommended to me.
Yeah.
I loved every minute of. We really need to review.
We should review
Longbow Hunters. Maybe that'll be our next review.
Yeah, we can do that next review because we won't even need to reread it because it's pretty.
And again, that's another good late '80s run that was just great.
Because like I think a lot of people forget that like yes, the Bronze Age had some silliness and weirdness to it, but like in my opinion, this is what the '90s was trying to be like, but failed. And mainly because their idea of dark was, well, we got to put pouches on everything and you have big guns.
We can't draw legs and feet properly.
Well, that was Rob Liefeld. Like there are some people like as much as I don't like McFarlane, he could draw legs and feet.
Liefeld couldn't do that to save his life.
But to be fair, I think if I'm to be honest, I think Spawn got better when other people drew Spawn. I'm
waiting on the Spawn movie, man.
Yeah, you're gonna be waiting a long time.
No, my McFarlane's gonna take over DC now.
I'll believe it when I see it. Do you think this could be made into a DCAU movie?
I certainly think it could be, given that they've dealt with some more of the heavy hitters. They did a Killing Joke one, and while it's obviously not a very faithful adaptation, in regards to some pieces of that.
I mean, it's faithful.
It's faithful to the Killing Joke.
Yeah,
it's all the other added crap that is really bad to it. But
in my opinion,
if they adapted this, I certainly would watch it and not only just like with Killing Joke being an example, they really handled a lot of the darker stuff in Gotham by Gaslight.
No, they did. For me, if they were to animate this, don't try to force it into their weird ongoing stuff with Batman.
Kind of have it be a standalone.
Its own thing, like Gotham by Gaslight or the upcoming Superman Red Sun that's going to be coming out. Like it.
We'll have to review that when we finally get a hands on it.
Yeah.
When I buy it, I'll give you the DVD copy if it comes with one.
Yeah.
Or we can just wait for it to come out on DC Universe.
But if they were to do this, please get Kevin Conroy to be Batman.
I would love to hear him just be like,
no,
I enjoyed it.
Well, I would like seeing his Batman just be broken, just because, like, I mean, not that I like to see Batman broken, but because I feel like his Batman doesn't get to do some of the more deeper emotion stuff anymore, like he did in like the animated series.
I almost feel like if he were, I don't know if he's ever commented on this, if he's ever read it, but I feel like this would be like right up his alley. Yeah. Kind of like with how Hamill really wanted to do Killing Joke for a long time.
No. Who'd you pick for Deacon Blackfire if we were to?
Off the top of my head, nobody's really jumping out at me. But if I had a little bit more time to kind of just sit down and think about it,
I mean, if they were to get like a big voice, I would actually say Josh Duhamel, the guy who does Thanos.
That would be great. Or even like
because like he would have that presence. Ron Perlman, the guy who did
Ron Perlman would be great.
He would be great. Yeah. Because he could do that voice he did for Slade and Teen Titans.
Or even for like doing like the one that he did for Fallout 1.
Yeah.
Just that like deep kind of like monotone like war. War never changes.
Yeah, that would
that would be a great.
He would be amazing.
He would knock that out of the park.
Yeah, I would love to hear Ron Perlman do because especially because I do not want them to make him look like I want them to make him look like this where he's actually muscular and kind of attractive looking.
Don't go with the Arkham Knight route.
Yeah, where he's like this cool, old. I'm like that. I get that they were kind of going for the Marilyn Manson thing, but he didn't look like that when he was leading his cult, did he?
Who, Charlie?
Yeah, he didn't look like like an old man.
Manson was a short dude with a beard and long hair and had this fucking freaky eye looking thing going
Well,
on.
I mean, like he didn't look like Alan Moore.
No, he didn't look like Alan
like he
Moore.
looks like that. He looked like that before he died. Like,
yeah.
If I were to say there's any problem with this story for me, it's more just kind of some of the dated stuff to it, like this, like
the
Reagan
stuff. Yeah,
like some of the.
And obviously, you could probably just remove that or just update it.
That would be actually because the way it kind of makes a joke of Reagan, you could probably just use our current president for that.
Yeah, that. I could see them doing that.
Yeah, I could see them doing that. Especially because like when they did the Dark Knight Returns, they did not hold back on the darkness. I don't know if they might have to cut some of it because like it would have to be a PG-13 if they were animating it.
Yeah, definitely.
They would certainly have to do like and that's the other thing. I don't know if they could do this for a Batman film because they would probably be R-rated if they had to do a Batman film. And unfortunately, I don't think they're planning on making Batman R-rated anytime soon. Sadly,
I thought the upcoming one was.
Oh, was it an upcoming one?
I think the upcoming one's rated R.
I did not know that. Well, I take that back.
Well, and I think after the success of Joker, showing that rated R related DC movies could definitely be successful, I could see them maybe taking a gamble and doing this one.
Yeah, I like.
But there would have to be interest in doing it.
Like you wouldn't even have to like make it like part of a movie series. You could just do the book, like. I appreciate them doing DCAU stuff, but you could just every once in a while like. You don't have to follow the Marvel thing and like make it like you could just
do standalones.
Yeah, just do standalones where Batman's dealing with cults.
Who would you cast as Jason in this? Would you go with Jensen Ackles? Or because I feel
probably
like
not because
Jensen works really well for older
Jason.
Who would you pick for a younger Jason?
I'm not really sure who I would pick for a younger Jason. I'd have to get back to you on that. I'm not really sure who I would pick because I'm trying to think, but all I can think of is older celebrities. Actually, I guess you could probably maybe do. Oh, I'm trying to think of it. We could do Chris O'Donnell. Just make him.
I actually would pay for that. That would actually be kind of funny.
Especially because, like, he could. I would actually, like, wouldn't mind seeing Chris O'Donnell do something serious because I'm not entirely sure what his acting chops are like. He's like, I've only ever seen him in garbage, and I'm like, well, I've also seen him in, like, really bad, like, movies where he is, like, a policeman who's partnered with a chimp.
Chicks dig the car.
I'm trying to think of someone who, maybe someone from, like, from The Runaways, one of those actors. Because they do pretty good with the teenage thing. I haven't seen that.
I hate to say it, I could honestly see Tom Holland
Yeah,
being Jason, but he's Spider-Man, so that would be kinda
that'd be weird. And
but even still, like you get what I'm
yeah,
seeing.
because like he wouldn't be bad as like, especially because this Jason isn't really a like the obnoxious Jason that people he is sometimes.
Yeah.
If it were me, I'd probably just because I know Robin's a hard sell, I would probably just nix him and just have it be Gordon looking for him. That Gordon's like, all right, we gotta find Batman. Maybe have Harvey Bullock be like, or like he puts Harvey on looking for Batman, or like maybe Renee Montoya.
Knowing how they like to change stuff, yeah, I could see that.
Because I only say that because Hollywood has this real hate for Batman. Like I don't know how well that would.
After how bad Batman and Robin bombed back in the 90s.
Well, it's not just that. Like I know like Nolan said like if we do Robin, I'm not. And like I get it. Like I know a lot of it has to do with Batman and Robin, but I'm like especially with like the fact that like there's so much cartoons and stuff that people push for Robin. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain because I get so frustrated with the fact that people think, oh, you know what? We could just have Alfred look for him.
That would actually be kind of cool.
Like in the Batman the Animated Series, The Underdwellers, not The Underdwellers, the one where Batman gets kidnapped because they're basically forcing like poor people into doing like.
Yeah, I remember which one you're talking about.
That would certainly work. For me, for an Alfred, if I were to pick, I actually wouldn't mind seeing the Jeremy Irons from like the Affleck one because I actually liked him as Alfred.
Yeah, I can see that. Just in the interest of timing, Any final thoughts on the cult before we wrap everything up?
Honestly, like, for me, I would just say the cult is definitely something that, like, I think if you're a Batman fan, you need to read. Because, like, it's such an interesting look into Batman's psyche without being like, oh, Batman's like this immortal god who will regenerate, like, he's like this big symbol. Like, you know, at the end of the day, he's still a man underneath all that. If I could ever find it, I'd also like us to read another book that's like this, Batman Venom, where he gets addicted.
Because you have that one, don't you?
I do not, unfortunately. I need to find it.
Maybe I can find it on Amazon. I'll give it to you.
AKA Batman gets addicted to steroids. And I make it kind of sound silly, but, like, it actually, in my opinion, works pretty well. It's not as tight as this book, because there's some silliness to it.
We're going to have to start diving into Marvel what ifs, Adam. What if Gwen Stacy never died?
Oh, let's not say we did.
Or the what if Uncle Ben didn't die?
We're going to need to start, as much as I want to do Longbow Hunter, after we do Longbow Hunters, we're going to have to find some Spider-Man stuff to talk about, because we call ourselves Remember the Hyphen. I think the 2 months of 2020, we've not done a single thing about Spider-Man.
I've got some ideas we can talk about.
And I know we do, and I came up with that one top 10 idea we should think about. But anyway, that's kind of my final thoughts. Like, I think it's a great story to see, you know, Batman at his lowest point and see why. I think what makes him really Batman, that, you know, he can fall from these great heights, but, you know, he can pick himself up.
Yeah. That really kind of sums up my opinion on it. Again, I really feel like it's a great look at just kind of like the darker side of the character and how, like, just the subject matter at hand. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I really love the art style in this. The art style itself really lends to the content of the story and just the darker subject matter. And it really does a great job at bringing out what I'm sure the writers were really thinking of when they were writing this.
So, and I also have to admit, I think it does a really great, like, a study on, like, how cults are. Because I think Jim Starlin even says, like, you know, I researched into these cults and stuff, and I kind of seen what kind of darkness you deal with when you deal with these sort of things. But yeah, I'm also kind of glad that they don't overuse Deacon Blackfire, because, like, they would have ruined him if they kept using him. Like, I'm glad, like, he's only, like, come back as a dark Black Lantern, or, like, referenced once in a video game, albeit pretty shittily. So yeah, I think that's kind of gonna wrap up our discussion on this book.
Tune in next week for our Weekend at Bernie's review.
I might say we should try to find a link in the description to see if we can find this. Like I said, it's very hard to find.
Yeah, I'll see if I can throw up an Amazon link, or I wonder if it's available on DC Universe.
I doubt it. I don't know if that's one of those books that DC Universe is like, hey, you know, it'd be great for everyone to read that book where we see Batman see a prostitute with her eye cut out, or a guy getting his brains blown out on TV.
You never know.
I would try and say, look up DC Universe.
I'm sure somebody's got a download of it somewhere.
But like I said, it's very hard to find because it doesn't get re-released a lot. I don't think it's because of the subject matter. I just think it's kind of one of those books that flies under DC's radar, unfortunately. But otherwise, if not, you know, you got this. I might put in the link in the description.
Back pages?
Back issues. Like,
can't recommend that channel enough.
Oh no, that channel I love watching that channel. It's so good.
I think we had never discussed it either until you came to. We were at lunch one day, and you're like, "Are you watching?
Are you watching Back Issues?
Yeah, are you watching Comic Pop?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I was like, because usually I'm the one that gets him to watch it, but
you were just like, "Oh, man of quality."
See, man of culture. But anyway, guys, I think that's gonna be it for this episode. I'm Zongetsu134.
I'm Average Joe Squad.
And as always, we ask you,
remember the hyphen.
Take care. I'm Batman.